The Moonshot Incubator begins with students and community members working together at the Moonshot Laboratory to imagine and build moonshot solutions to the great challenges of the day. When a big idea begins to surface at the laboratory, that is when the incubator comes in to help students and community members with the critical next steps. The incubator helps students and community members to develop a business plan, protect their intellectual property, get their financials in order, and to begin working on how they will pitch their startup to start raising funds. For those social entrepreneurs who would rather start a nonprofit, the incubator helps them to establish their 501c3s and connects them to local and national foundations and grant organizations to help them get started. Once they have their plans in order and ready to go, it is time to start looking for capital. But where will funding come from, and who will own the equity, and how much? Well, it starts and ends with the student. Students and community members automatically retain 51% ownership of their startups. This makes sure students remain the owners and nurturers of their own ideas. Then, 10% of each startup goes back into the Moonshot Laboratory. This helps to fund operations at the local lab and keep it privately funded and free from the restrictions of public funding. The 10% also goes into funding the opening of Moonshot laboratories around the country. This creates an exponential and sustainable growth model because the more students across the country that have access to laboratories, the more moonshot ideas will be generated, along with the revenue that goes along with that. And this will help to open even more laboratories. 4% of each startup goes back into the Moonshot Incubator to sustain operations while increasing and improving the level of services available to communities as the laboratories expand. 5% of each startup goes to local nonprofits supporting school districts partnering with each Moonshot laboratory. They can use the equity to fund programs and technologies that promote moonshot thinking like one-to-one computing programs, collaborative makerspaces, and professional development for teachers. So what about the other 30%? The Moonshot Incubator gets students and community members ready to pitch their ideas to venture capitalists, angel investors, and other funding sources. To gain access to 25% of each startup, they pay a membership fee up front. This allows them to have right of first refusal as projects emerge from the laboratory into the incubator. So what about the return on investment? Well, there are two exits here. The first, they can sell their stake in all of the different Moonshot Incubator startups they decide to invest in. The detailed exit strategies for each startup will vary. Second, as the Moonshot Laboratory and Incubator grow, access to the startup ideas becomes more valuable, and so do the membership fees. Investors can sell their membership for whatever the market dictates. The final 5% goes to the community. Since we are already personally vested in the success of each student, why not also be invested in the success of their big ideas? But who can invest? Well, just about everyone and their grandmother. See, the Jobs Act has erased many of the barriers associated with regular people investing in startup companies. Almost everyone now has an opportunity to invest in the startup of their choice. This means local communities can now come together and invest in local entrepreneurs. This creates a huge opportunity for communities to promote creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship by being vested in the success of their children and fellow community members. But how does the community gain access to invest in these startup projects? Well, Moonshot Incubator is launching a Kickstarter to raise the seed funding necessary to begin growing operations. Community members that contribute to the Kickstarter campaign will join a club of potential crowdfunders who will be given a chance to invest in student and community startups before anybody else has a chance to. In addition to the opportunity to invest in student and community startups, Kickstarter contributors will be getting some cool rewards to start transforming their learning spaces into collaborative, engaging, moonshotty learning environments. Rewards like EdTech Team books, breakout EDU kits, discounts on EdTech Team summits, boot camps, and workshops. And of course, all the cool kids are wearing the Moonshot Incubator t-shirt. As the Kickstarter gets closer, we will have more rewards available from EdTech Team and our sponsors. So how does the investment model work? When investing in individual moonshots, it is first come, first serve. Community investments are pooled and equity divided equally. Let's take a look at an example. Sophia needs to raise $200,000 for her moonshot idea, 5% of which will be crowdfunding. This means she is looking to raise $10,000 from the community. So if this $10,000 raise will be limited to 100 crowdfund investors, each one of the investors will be getting a 0.05% stake in Sophia's startup. Only 0.05% stake, you say? That doesn't seem like very much, but let's try and keep this in perspective. Let's take a look at Facebook. 0.05% of Facebook today is worth more than $167 million. Each one of those investors would now be worth that much. Now, imagine instead of going to Silicon Valley for funding, Mark Zuckerberg had first crowdfunded from his own local community. Having 100 people in the community worth more than $100 million would fundamentally change not only the community, but the future of the children in it. Now, imagine all the other Facebook-sized ideas out there ready to explode if only students and community members had access to places that help foster creativity, entrepreneurship, and moonshot thinking, and also gave them the guidance they needed to build their startup and bring it to market. Places like the Moonshot Laboratory and the Moonshot Incubator. It's their future. Let them own it.